हेलो फ्रेंड्स। एसपी का जो फर्स्ट लेसन है दैट इज ऑल अबाउट योर सोर्सेज ऑफ कैपिटल, राइट। 12th का एसपी का फर्स्ट लेसन इंट्रोडक्शन टू कॉर्पोरेट फाइनेंस। जो फाइनेंस कंपनीज को लगता है या द वन विच इज नीडेड बाय द कंपनी टू रन द बिजनेस एफिशिएंटली, और जो फाइनेंस कंपनी यूज करती है फिक्स कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए और वर्किंग कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए। तो वर्किंग कैपिटल क्या है एंड व्हाई यू नीड इट, व्हाट आर द फैक्टर्स अफेक्टिंग वर्किंग कैपिटल, वो आज हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, दिस इज दीप्ति जोशी फ्रॉम ACME Commerce Academy, welcoming every students, every friend on this channel. So we are going to start with the working capital meaning, their factors affecting the working capital. So what is working capital? It is a capital which is used to carry out business, day to day business चालू करने के लिए आपको जो capital चाहिए, that is called a working capital. Now firms will estimate the fixed capital requirement. जैसे company wants to start या business want to start industry, तो land के लिए how much money they will need to buy the fixed capital, that is for a machinery, tools, equipments के लिए how much money they will need. So after estimating all these fixed capital requirement, the next step of the business firm is what? To find out the amount needed for a raw material. Now, how much stock the company will do, right? Business firm require the stock of raw material so that they can do the production continuously. So firm will need a capital to maintain the stock of finished goods. Now in reality what happens? The goods are sold in cash as well as credit. Now suppose आपके goods cash में sale हो रहे हैं, you will get the cash immediately. But when the firm is selling on a credit, then the question comes, okay, how much money they will need it for the working capital requirement. Why? Because the firm will be collecting money from their customers या debtors after a particular period of time. जैसे 2 महीने का आपने आपके जो customers है उसको उधारी दे दिया. So after that only 2 months you are going to get the money. In that case, the firm will need an extra capital to pay the cash for all the overhead expenses. So what are the overhead expenses? That is your accounting fees, advertising, insurance है, interest पे करना है, legal fees है, auditor की fees है, telephone bills है. तो ये सारे overhead expenses pay करने के लिए the firm will be needed what? Excess cash. And that excess cash to meet the unexpected expenses of the business, yeah, expected expenses of the business is your working capital. So I repeat, the firm will need cash to pay off the overhead expenses. At the same time, there are many uncertainty expenses are there, right? बहुत सारी uncertainty, कभी कोई एक्सीडेंट हो गया आपको पैसे लगेंगे, कभी कोई आपके ट्रांसपोर्ट में आपके जो वैन है, ट्रक है, उसका एक्सीडेंट हो गया तो उसके लिए भी यू विल नीड अ मनी. सो ऑल दिस अनएक्सपेक्टेड एक्सपेंसेस के लिए भी फर्म नीड अ कैपिटल कॉल योर वर्किंग कैपिटल. So what the working capital will be required for? First of all, for building up the inventory. मतलब आपको जब inventory का stock करना है in your godown, you will need a working capital. For financing receivables and payables, आपको किसी को pay करना है, you have to pay the money to your creditors and all. For that also you will need a working capital. And for day-to-day operating expenses, for that reason, the firm will need a working capital. Now, thus the capital invested in this asset, ना आपने inventory में purchase कर लिया and you have invested money in your inventory. So this inventory is your working capital. Now working capital का concept is defined by different people. अलग अलग जो authors है, they have given the authorities have given the definition of working capital. Like Gristenberg, what he said, excess of current assets over current liability. मीनिंग आपकी जो करंट लायबिलिटी कम होगी और करंट एसेट्स ज़्यादा होगी. से फॉर एग्जांपल आपके करंट एसेट्स है 5 करोड़, करंट लायबिलिटी है 2 करोड़, तो व्हाट इज द वर्किंग कैपिटल? 3 करोड़. एक्सेस ऑफ करंट एसेट्स ओवर करंट लायबिलिटी, and this is called a net working capital. वाई? बिकॉज आप लायबिलिटीज को माइनस करने के बाद वॉट एवर अमाउंट इज लेफ्ट इज योर वर्किंग कैपिटल. नाउ Gristenberg doesn't say to this as a working capital, but he prefer to say as a circulating capital. Why? Because the capital keep on moving. जो भी आप इन्वेस्ट करते हो, that you get in again back, वही प्रॉफिट आप वापस इन्वेस्ट करोगे. That is why it is called as a circulating capital. Other authorities like J.S. Mill, he said a different meaning of the working capital. Sum of current assets is a working capital. उससे कहा भाई आपके पास जितने भी करंट एसेट्स है उसको ऐड करो. This is a working capital, but it is a approach is have a broader application and it is called as a gross working capital. Why gross? क्योंकि यहाँ पर हमने liability minus किया नहीं है, right? Now let us see what are the factors affecting the working capital. आपको working capital, friend, this is very simple way to understand. Where you will need a more working capital and where you will need less working capital, that we have to decide. Now there is no precise rule, कोई rule regulation नहीं है कि to measure how much working capital business will need to run and to pay the day-to-day expenses. Management has to decide या determine the size of working capital. Suppose आपका business बड़ा है या आपका business छोटा है, whatever, if your business is big enough or small enough, in that consideration the business firm will have to decide the amount of working capital needed for the business firm, right? First one is nature of business. Now your firm is engaged in manufacturing the essential products. What are the essential products? Like you can say bread, biscuits and all other food item. Yeah, whatever is needed in the society without which no society can run, usko bolte हैं essential item. So if your firm is engaging in essential item, that is of daily consumption, obviously will need a less working capital. Why less working capital? Because there is a constant and sufficient cash flow is there. अब just एक सिंपल सा एग्जाम्पल है, जस्ट गो टू द ग्रोसरी शॉप नियर योर होम. ग्रोसरी शॉप में चले जाओ. How much working capital या how much working capital that firm shop will need it? Less. क्यों? क्योंकि आप जब खुद ही जाते हो, when you yourself goes to buy the say wafers या biscuits, what you do? You pay the cash and come back. मतलब उनका जो working capital cash inflow is high. In that case, they will need a less working capital. Even a public utility concern, जैसे ट्रांसपोर्ट है, गैस सर्विस है, रेलवेज है, दे आर ऑल पब्लिक यूटिलिटी कंसर्न है. दे विल गेट अ कैश इमीडिएटली. आपके घर पे गैस का सिलेंडर आता है, हाउ योर मम्मी इज पेइंग इमीडिएट कैश, या आप बोलोगे हमने डायरेक्ट कैश डिपॉजिट कर दिया. तो वंस यू डिपॉजिट द कैश, देन ओनली सिलेंडर कम्स एट होम. It means the firm is having enough cash. In that case, the working capital requirement will become less. But suppose if you are in your luxurious product, a production कर रहे हो luxurious, fridge, TV, AC, it will require huge working capital to run the business. Why? Because the sale of luxurious product is not frequent. Now, suppose आपके monsoon season है, what will happen in monsoon? Nobody will buy the AC as already the surrounding is cold. तो आपका कैश इनफ्लो कम हो जाएगा. समर में कैश इनफ्लो will become high. So depending upon the type of business you are dealing, the requirement of the working capital will get changed. Like you are in the trading and merchandising firm, which are concerned with the distribution of goods to have to carry the big inventories. Meaning what? What is merchandising firm? Say for example, you have got a smart bazaar or you are going to the DMart. What happens in that? They will have to carry the huge inventory. आप कुछ भी खरीदते हो, आपने सपोज कोई डिटर्जेंट सोप ले लिया, आपके जैसे वहां पर और 10 कस्टमर खड़े हैं एंड दे ऑल्सो आर बाइंग द सेम डिटर्जेंट या डिफरेंट डिटर्जेंट. ऑब्वियसली वो शेल्फ खाली हो जाएगा. व्हाट द पीपल डू फ्रॉम देयर, व्हाट एम्प्लॉयज डू, इमीडिएटली वो शेल्फ में और डिटर्जेंट ला के रख देते हैं. उनके पास ऑलरेडी स्टॉक हुआ भरा रहता है उनके गोडाउन में. It means those who are merchandising and the trading agents are there, firms are there, they will need a more working capital. Why? To maintain the inventory, right? So उनके लिए working capital requirement चला होगा अगर वो आपका firm trading या manufacturing business है. Next is size of business. Size of business also affects the रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ वर्किंग कैपिटल, फर्म विद द लार्ज स्केल ऑपरेशन, आपका ऑपरेशन ज़्यादा है, बड़ा काम काज है, यू विल नीड अ मोर वर्किंग कैपिटल बिकॉज यू आर कवरिंग द लार्जर एरिया. वॉल्यूम ऑफ सेल. Now, this is a very important factor affecting the working capital. As your volume of sales and size of working capital, direct relation. If your sales are rising, your working capital requirement will rise. Why? अगर आपका sales बढ़ रहा है, तो obviously again you will have to maintain the stock. You will have to buy the all that finished goods for your business. In that case, your sales are high, working capital high. Production cycle. Now, what is production cycle? This they ask in objective also. Process of conversion of raw material into finished good is called a production cycle. One word में भी आ सकता है, objective में आ सकता है. It means if your production cycle is too long, आप जिसे बना रहे हो ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री, भाई ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री सच वे it cannot be completed within 10 days. Obviously, it will take more time to assemble all the parts. But suppose आप कैडबरी का प्रोडक्शन कर रहे हो, चॉकलेट कैडबरी या कोई वेफर्स का कर रहे हो या बिस्किट्स का कर रहे हो, प्रोडक्शन साइकिल इज वेरी लेस. Hence, wherever the production cycle is less, you will need a less working capital. And if the production cycle is longer, then they will need a more working capital क्योंकि आपका जो कैश कलेक्शन है ज़्यादा होगा नहीं. Business cycle. Whenever there is a boom in the boom meaning when your economy is in a prosperity form, obviously you will lead to increasing the investment in stock. आप ज़्यादा स्टॉक में इन्वेस्ट करोगे क्योंकि इकोनॉमी ऊपर जा रही है, यू विल नीड अ मोर वर्किंग कैपिटल. बट अगर आपके यहाँ पर रिसेशन है, व्हाट इज रिसेशन? पीपल आर नॉट हैविंग इनफ जॉब, एम्प्लॉयमेंट नहीं है, तो व्हाट विल हैपन? सेल विल डिक्लाइन क्योंकि आपके पास इनकम ही नहीं, तो वहाँ भी विल इंक्रीज द सेल एंड हेंस द नीड ऑफ वर्किंग कैपिटल विल बिकम less. So during recession, you will need a less working capital, and during the inflation, that is in a boom period, you will need a more working capital. So next point is terms of purchase and sales. If the firm does not get credit facility for purchase, अगर firm को purchase करना है on a say cash basis, but they are selling the goods on a credit basis, obviously you will need a more working capital. मतलब firms क्या कर रही है कि जो सेल कर रही है वो उधार में कर रही है, क्रेडिट दे रही है अपने कस्टमर्स को, इनफ क्रेडिट दे रही है, 2 महीने की क्रेडिट. बट व्हेन दैट सेम फर्म इज गोइंग टू परचेज द रॉ मटेरियल, दे विल हैव टू पे द कैश. तो वो कैश पे करने के लिए व्हाट दे विल नीड, दे विल रिक्वायर एडिशनल वर्किंग कैपिटल. बट ऑन द अदर एंड, इफ द क्रेडिट टर्म ऑफ परचेज आर फेवरेबल, बट आपके अगर क्रेडिटर्स हैं, दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग यू द क्रेडिट फैसिलिटी एंड योर सेल्स इज, और आपके जो टर्म्स ऑफ क्रेडिट सेल्स है आर लेस लिबरल, आप ज़्यादा क्रेडिट नहीं दे रहे हो, इन दैट केस द रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द कैश विल बिकम लेस क्योंकि आपके पास कैश इनफ्लो ज़्यादा है और जो पेमेंट करना है वो बाद में करना है आफ्टर 2 to 3 months. In that case, your working capital requirement will get reduced. So depending upon the terms of purchase and sale, your working capital requirement get reduced. Next is credit control. Now, what is credit control? Credit control includes the factors such as volume of credit sales and the term of credit sales and the collection policy. If your firm is doing more credit sales, you will need a more working capital. So if credit control policy is sound, it is possible for the company to improve the cash. अगर आपकी जो collection policy, credit collection policy, अगर sound है, meaning your whatever your customers are taking on a credit, they are paying you money immediately, on time. Your cash inflow will improve. आपका cash inflow ज़्यादा होगा, working capital requirement will become less. But if the credit policy is liberal मतलब you are giving more credit to the customer, it creates a problem of collection of cash. बहुत बात ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि there can be a bad debts, your customers are not paying you the money, पैसे नहीं पे कर रहे. In that case, you will need a more working capital. And firm making cash sales, जो भी firm cash sales में करेगा sale, they will need a less working capital. Growth and expansion. Working capital requirements of the firm will increase with the growth of the firm. जितना आपका फर्म का ग्रोथ ज़्यादा होगा, there is more need of working capital. And growing company needs a fund continuously. Why? Because of the large scale operation. कोई भी बिजनेस होगा, अगर आप लोकल लेवल पे करते हो तो आपको कम वर्किंग कैपिटल, बट इफ यू एक्सपांड योर बिजनेस टू नेशनल लेवल यू विल नीड अ मोर वर्किंग कैपिटल। नेक्स्ट इज वर्किंग कैपिटल के जो रिक्वायरमेंट है डिपेंड्स अपॉन द मैनेजमेंट एबिलिटी। Requirement of working capital is reduced if there is a proper coordination between the production and distribution of goods. अगर management is properly talented, skilled, and they know how to make a balance between production and distribution of goods, they cannot face, yeah, they will never face the problem of cash, right? In that case, their working capital requirement will be less. But firm who does a huge stock of the inventory, ज़्यादा stock करके दिया, obviously they will need a more working capital because the cash inflow is less and the stock is high, so they will need a more working capital. Next is external factor. If financial institution and bank provide funds to the firm, आपके पास IDBI, IFCI, all these are the financial institution, and many banks are there who provide funds, yeah, loan to the firms in an easy way. Whenever they need, they get the loan. In that case, the need for working capital will get reduced. So because the loan is easily available, external factor is favorable, the need of working capital will get reduced. Okay friends, so make sure आपके ये आंसर में आपको क्या याद करके लिखना है कि when your working capital requirement becomes high and when your working capital requirement become less. Once you have understood this concept, आपको आंसर लिखना बहुत ईजी हो जाएगा, and this answer can ask in a board exam for a 4 marks in briefly answer, right? Or it can be also for your justify में आ सकता है. Thanks for being with us and please subscribe the channel and please give the links to your friend. आपके friend को भी links देते रहना.